What's going on, everybody? This is the Real Buffs Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Charlie.
And Matt.
Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about one of our favorite films, one of Martin Scorsese's best films, in my opinion. This came out 10 years ago, and part of the reason why we chose this film actually is because it's celebrating its 10-year anniversary coming up in this December. Nice, another holiday release. That's 2 movies in a row now with holiday releases. But we also got a new Martin Scorsese movie that I actually saw last week, which was fantastic, Killers of the Flower Moon. So we thought to ourselves, why not take a dive into a Scorsese flick? So this week, if you haven't guessed yet, we are looking at The Great Wolf of Wall Street. The Wolf of Wall Street came out in 2013. Can you believe that, Matt? 2013.
Bless. No, like the fact that this is already 10 years and we're talking about 2013 when I think 10 years ago was still 2003 is stupid. It's also stupid.
You mean 2013, not 2003?
No, I'm saying like I still think 2003 is 10 years ago.
Oh,
2013. Like 2013 to me was yesterday. 2003 is 10 years ago. But now the fact we're looking at like, a decade ago is the year 2013 when, we had just gotten like our first Avengers movie. This movie just came out and it's just like, oh my God, dude.
Matt, this movie obviously holds a special place in my heart because it came out in 2013. And you know what else came out in 2013 was Our Friendship.
That's actually absolutely right.
Yeah,
absolutely. This movie came out, just after we kind of met. And I still remember exactly where I was when I watched this movie. I was on my first deployment, actually, and didn't know a thing about this movie. We got off shift. It was like midnight and there was a movie playing and we were like, yeah, dude, let's go see this movie, whatever. And then next, it turns into a 3-hour we didn't know it was 3 hours. We didn't know anything about this movie. So I'm sitting there and just watching it all unfold and had no idea what it was about. And I think it was the best that I went in blind because it just made it that much better. And then it's also the middle of the night for me where I was at, and absolutely crazy, phenomenal flick that I still will quote to this day.
Oh, absolutely. It's an infinitely quotable movie, and especially like most of the lines that are quotable are coming from Jonah Hill too. Oh. I'm trying to think. So yeah, because you had your deployment, but that was like, I feel like, was that after I left? I totally forget. Like, when was it?
No, because you picked me up from the airport. You took me to all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So this is before you left and everything like that. So I'm pretty sure we even watched it at your house at one point.
Yeah.
Because you were around down there in Florida till like 2015 at least.
Yeah. Well, yeah, till the end of 2014. So yeah. So that brings it to like where I first saw it. And basically, I was talking to this girl at the time and she was telling me how like funny the movie was. And I just, hadn't gotten around to seeing it, that sort of thing. And so obviously I'd always been a big fan of Scorsese's films. I mean, Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies. Love that. Actually, some of Scorsese's older flicks I even hold in higher regard as well. So I was not opposed to like give this a shot, and I think it was like I was working nights. So it was one of those days, Matt, where I just decided I'm gonna get some wine. I had my big sippy cup of wine, and I was gonna sit down and watch this movie. And lo and behold, one of the things she told me about that didn't spoil anything for me was the cerebral palsy scene, and how it was the funniest thing she'd ever seen, and she had to like walk out of the theater because she was laughing so hard. And lo and behold, I was dying too when we finally got to that scene.
It's the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, listen. We'll talk about that when we get the best scene.
Ahead, yeah,
but yeah, it was hilarious. I just thought this was his funniest movie by far. And there's always some sort of like dark humor to his movies anyway. But yeah, this one I just thought was absolutely hilarious. Leo knocked it out of the park, and then bringing in a Jonah Hill for improv just made it that much funnier. And even like a lot of the side characters too. Dude, obviously
stacked. Like you have Jon Bernthal's in this movie, Jon Favreau's in this movie, Matthew McConaughey's in this movie, and then
I know,
like this is Margot Robbie's like coming out party, so to speak.
Yeah,
well. And look how far she's come in the last 10 years. And this,
Barbie herself.
Absolutely, just a stacked cast.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like actually brings me to one of the first questions that like I thought about when we were looking at this movie. Is this the best cast that Scorsese has ever worked with?
Man, I mean, it might just be from like a powerhouse standpoint, and this might be like revisionist history more, or like more recency bias, because you look at Leo DiCaprio, who stars in a bunch of his movies. Jonah Hill, look where he came from, the Superbad fame, and now look at where he's at now. Again, Margot Robbie just starred in perhaps the all-time like grossing movie for a Warner Brothers film in Barbie. Matthew McConaughey speaks for himself. Jon Bernthal is in shows like The Bear. He's the Punisher, all of that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it's very easy, but he's also worked with people like De Niro, Pesci, Pacino, Ray Romano. He's worked with Anna Paquin, Mark Ruffalo, Ben Kingsley. So
yeah, so
even I would almost want to say The Departed might.
Yeah, let's go through, because there's this question kind of popped into my mind when we're watching this movie, obviously, and like the cast is stacked, and a lot of the side characters in this film. And not just side characters, but characters that don't maybe have a bigger role as like Margot Robbie or Jonah Hill or Leo in this film. And honestly, like they dominate a lot of the screen time when you really start to pay attention to the movie. Yeah, when you start to look at it, like all those actors pretty much knock their roles out of the park too, and it's great. So, let's go line by line, because I picked out about 6 films that I think are probably the most stacked cast. And honestly, I will say this right now, I think Killers of the Flower Moon might be up there as well too, but I didn't add it yet because we haven't really had time to marinate. It's only been out about so for The Wolf of Wall Street, we got Leo, Jonah Hill, Margot Robbie, Matthew McConaughey, Kyle Chandler, Rob Reiner, Jon Favreau, Jon Bernthal, Joanna Lumley, and then young Kristen Milioti too, who in her limited role like absolutely knocks it out of the park. So that's just for The Wolf of Wall Street. Now we're going to go back a few years. We'll go back to The Irishman. Now let's listen to the stacked cast. De Niro, Pacino, Pesci, who came out of retirement for this one, Harvey Keitel, Ray Romano, Bobby Cannavale, Anna Paquin, Stephen Graham, Jesse Plemons.
Just stacked, just absolutely. And then, we go down to Shutter Island, which had Leo, Mark Ruffalo, Ben Kingsley, Max von Sydow, who from The Exorcist, Jackie Earle Haley, Ted Levine, John Carroll Lynch, and then probably another movie that was probably the most quotable one is The Departed. You got Leo, you got Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson, Mark Wahlberg, Martin Sheen, Vera Farmiga, Alec Baldwin, and Anthony Anderson in that one as well. So just again, another powerhouse set of films.
Yeah, it's like as you go back, obviously, the actors, the actors maybe get a little bit less recognizable. But like the idea is like they were powerhouses at the time, especially like when you start to go back into De Niro and Pesci. Like Joe Pesci obviously is pretty much retired from movies right now, but decided to come out of retirement for one more go around. It was basically like Jordan with the Wizards, when he did that. But even though he's like still on two bad knees, he still puts up points and is doing it again. But anyways, so the other last two on here, and I don't think these are a surprise to anybody. So Casino, and this is going back in where Scorsese was working primarily with De Niro. So we've got De Niro, Pesci, Sharon Stone, James Woods, Don Rickles, Alan King, Kevin Pollak, Frank Vincent, who's a great character actor, and he's also in Goodfellas as well, and has a great role in The Sopranos. As so for the last one, obviously, is going to be Goodfellas. Again, we've got the tandem of De Niro and Pesci. This one we got Ray Liotta, Lorraine Bracco, Paul Sorvino, Frank Vincent, Tony Darrow, Mike Starr, Debbie Mazar. It's hard to say because each of these like is just an absolute powerhouse map. But if you got to pick one, what's it going to be?
Oh man, honestly though, like I think out of all those movies right there, it's got to be The Departed, just for the fact that you have Jack Nicholson in probably it's not his final film, but like this is probably one of Jack Nicholson's final iconic roles that he was in. And then you got to throw in Matt Damon, Leo, all that, and then just the pure shock factor of the way this film ends as well. So to me, I think The Departed probably is the most stacked, but like Wolf of Wall Street's right there. And again, it's hard to pick one because it's almost like you can see the eras he's worked through and different actors. It's just he's one of those people that's just transcended genre, or not even necessarily genres, just eras of people he's worked with. And if you've made it to a Scorsese film, you've kind of made it in the acting world.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. He's a master, and and as far as directors, like he's up there with him, Quentin Tarantino, Christopher Nolan. They're probably, some of the biggest cinephiles as directors too. So like has just an appreciation for the art form that like, very few people on this earth even have. And he's absolutely stacked. And I would agree. Like The Departed is just, when you go through it, like they probably got like the deepest bench. You know what I mean? Like they're starting,
That's a championship caliber team, right?
Yeah. This is like their big three is pretty ridiculous with Leo, Matt Damon, and Jack Nicholson. But I would say, like, obviously, if The Irishman maybe came out a little bit, like maybe 10 years earlier, even,
it came out past the time it should have definitely been released, because had that movie come out even 5 years earlier, I think it would have been talked about more. But instead, I almost feel like it came and went.
Yeah, it also, like, that's an interesting point for the Netflix release too. Yeah. Like we could talk about that, and we can even do a deeper dive on that movie eventually. But I'm a little torn because like I got to agree. Like I do think The Departed is probably the best cast he's worked with, and just as far as like how deep we're going with like actors like Martin Sheen, Vera Farmiga, Alec Baldwin, and even Anthony Anderson's like a great character actor on this as well. So yeah, I would agree, but I'd say The Wolf of Wall Street is top three. It's up there with The Irishman and The Departed in the top three for best cast he's ever worked with. Yeah. So the other thing though, when watching this movie that really got me thinking about Scorsese is he the best needle dropper of all time? And I don't know if I explained this to you when I say needle dropper. A director who just, when they drop a song into a movie, it just hits so well. Like he might be the best, and certainly he's the one to really popularize using like popular rock music in their movies. Like he was really the guy to start doing it before Quentin Tarantino obviously started, doing it a lot. But I mean, do you think he's the best of all time as far as like, inserting his soundtrack or putting together his soundtracks for a film?
I mean, yes, I think over a larger sample size, it's very arguably that he's up there. I mean, of course, if you're looking at, soundtracks, it's James Gunn recently has kind of taken the forefront, but I think consistently speaking, Scorsese's up there. And, he's another one that like songs get insanely popular after being in his movies too. And he does, it's more of like, he doesn't pick a song to throw and insert like some movies do. They just insert a song and has nothing to do with the movie. It's almost like he tells a story through the song, through the soundtrack, which also goes hand in hand with whatever is on screen at the time. So he definitely might be the one who has like trailblazed for soundtracks and movies.
Yeah, he's definitely the trailblazer as far as that goes. I would totally agree. I will say, like, it's one thing where it's like you're picking out a song and you're kind of doing it for the pacing. There's so many things to consider when you are putting together a soundtrack. It's like, okay, like maybe the lyrics in the song, like sometimes just the lyrics match up perfectly, and
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
it doesn't have to be even on the nose as far as like what you're supposed to be feeling or what you're supposed to be doing, but it just matches up perfectly. But I think he's the best like at using music to really help the pacing too, because that's another thing. Like you take a look at the movie, and when we get past a certain point, like there's this kinetic energy throughout it, and a lot of it is based on the movie. I kind of got this idea after we watched it, but I'd love to go through it again and like see how many different songs he used up until the point where, you know, the movie starts its like falling action, which really occurs like around the point where Leo gets married to Margot Robbie and she tosses the water on his face, you know, and it's after one of the best music moments in the movie, which is like when they're playing Foo Fighters, obviously.
Yes.
Anytime you get Everlong in a movie, I'm going to absolutely love it. So, I just noticed that at points during that time, like he let us like not have the movie or the music take control of scenes as much. I mean, it was still there. There was still some great music moments after that. It just felt like there was less of it. He let us sit with the characters a little bit more and sit in the moment
without
more.
a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. And some production notes and things like that as well. Is this was just like The Exorcist, based on a book. It was a true story. Jordan Belfort, who is played by Leonardo DiCaprio, this is a real guy. He's served his time. He's out as a motivational speaker these days, I guess. But the same title is the same in the movie, The Wolf of Wall Street. And Belfort actually has a cellmate in prison who tells him to write a book, which is how the book came about, which then turns into the movie. And from there, Belfort was actually unsure if his life was that crazy. And then his cellmate Chong reassures him by saying, "I'm Tommy Chong, and I think your life is crazy."
Yeah, let's not gloss over this. His cellmate was Tommy Chong from Cheech and Chong from that 70s show. I know, right? Like in an interview, I kind of watched this when I was doing my research. Is like, you know, he's the real Jordan Belfort's talking about his experience, and he's like, he's like, I deserve to be in prison. He's like, he did not deserve to be in prison. And I guess there's a documentary about it, but I didn't do too much research. And Tommy Chong was like, yeah, he's like, I think your life is he's like, I'm Tommy Chong and I think your life is crazy. So and he also said the Quaalude stories are my favorite. Like I can just imagine like Tommy Chong and his Tommy Chong voice being like, the Quaalude stories are my
like,
favorite,
especially
man.
when you got him. Yeah. And it's just ridiculous because at that time, Chong was actually serving up a 9-month sentence for selling drug paraphernalia, which whatever, man. Like we have such a weird issue with drugs. If it's like weed, you know, because that's all it really was, is like the dude got busted for selling some pot stuff and things like that. And it's just funny how that all works out where we're at now. But the book was actually first published in 2007 by Bantam Books. A reviewer in Publishers Weekly stated the book's main topic is the vast amount of sex, drugs, and risky physical behavior Belfort managed to survive, as might be expected in the autobiography of a veteran con man with the movie rights already sold. It's hard to know how much to believe. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of hard because there are some things that just kind of get like really, truly outrageous. One thing that I really hope to be true is the scene with Matthew McConaughey beating his chest. Like, I need that scene above all else to be absolutely true, just for the sole ridiculousness of going out to lunch with somebody like that. And he just starts like beating his chest ridiculously.
Oh, we'll get to that because I did in this just for this movie. And, you know, maybe we'll do this for other movies coming up here, especially ones that are based off true story. We're going to do, you know, a fact or fiction section on that, and we'll get to that. But yeah, in 2006, Jordan Belfort, you know, we mentioned this already, but the movie rights were pretty much already sold upon release of the book. 2007, Belfort chose Leo and Marty, who were working together closely at that time, option his book rights to in a deal, you know, with Warner Brothers as well. However, there were issues between Paramount, Warner's, since Scorsese was like working with Paramount at the time. So some of those issues arise, and then a writer's strike happens, and Leo and Scorsese are out, and they're going to make Shutter Island. So, and this is from Jordan's real Jordan's perspective, and he was, devastated, obviously. But this is something that is commonplace in Hollywood, where it's like, all right, you might get some momentum, and then things get put on the back burner for other things.
Yeah.
Warner's initial option expired in 2010. And Leo's second option expired, but he renewed it, obviously. Leo's commitment to this film is and passion for it is really what saved it.
Without a doubt.
Funny fact, though, for a brief time, Ridley Scott was tied to the movie, but Fox made him go do Prometheus. So this begs the question, obviously, what does this movie look like with Ridley Scott at the helm? Obviously,
Ridley Scott.
No, I don't.
Chance.
I don't think so. I love Ridley Scott,
this
of Alien, Gladiator. I'm pumped for the new Napoleon movie. I think it's going to be really good.
The Napoleon movie looks insane. I am so sick. I'm pumped for that one. But
we're getting a new Gladiator. Yeah,
we are. I think that this movie is not as iconic with Ridley Scott, and that's not a knock to him. It's just I don't think this is the style of movie that fits.
No. I mean, this is what you learn about movies too when you go through them. They're almost like miracles in and of themselves that they happen. And when they do so well, it's like there's a confluence of events that brings the right people together at the right time and everything like that. But yeah, these are the things that I think happen. It's going to take itself way too seriously. I just Ridley Scott, I don't know, just looking over his filmography, I just don't think he would have the comedic sensibility for a movie like this.
Yeah, that needs saying. It's just this movie thrives on not taking itself seriously, whereas Ridley Scott tends to his just style of filmmaking is a more serious tone versus Scorsese, who knows how to match the tone to what the story is more so than Ridley Scott. And that's not to knock Ridley Scott. He's a phenomenal filmmaker. It's just the styles are vastly different, and Scorsese fits the theme and what they're going for perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this movie is and we'll talk about it when we get there, but it's very much it's very similar to Goodfellas in a lot of different ways. I always said, here's some differences with these two movies. When Donnie eats the fish, does an alien burst out later? Is that what happens in Ridley Scott's movie? Yeah.
Or shits fish out or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I was like, maybe they'll just have random shots of Leo, grazing his hand over wheat like they do in Gladiator all the time, too. But I would 100% take a Rick and Morty portal gun to the universe where this film was made just to see it. So, but yeah, like I'd mentioned before, about Leo and his passion for this movie, he really kept it alive. Even obviously after Ridley Scott was off the project, he just loved Terrence Winter's script, thought it was so raunchy and funny. And eventually, this movie was, it was basically financed by this is where it really gets interesting as far as the pre-production. It was financed by a Malaysian investment fund, Red Granite Pictures, who is, the production company behind this movie. They got Leo involved. Leo wanted Scorsese involved, and they basically offered Scorsese an offer that he can't refuse. Not to get all Godfather on us, but yeah, this production company was implicated in a scandal, in which 3.5 billion from the government run one MDB fund is alleged to have found its way into the bank accounts of associates of Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak, to be used for lavish expenses and investments. So basically, there is some financial fraud that funds a film about the same thing. So a little bit of life imitating art, which is a movie. So that is, making of a movie of obviously people who are committing financial crimes. So it's almost like life with art imitating life and life imitating art. It's this weird thing. But yeah, color me shocked here that, a movie based on a book where a guy committed financial crimes would be financed by more financial crimes.
It should come as no surprise. Anybody who's legitimately shocked by that, just come on, man. Look at the source material.
I know. Well, I mean, let's be real. Obviously, there's plenty of movies done about shady people. maybe we'll find out differently, but I don't think Goodfellas has, that weird sort of financing. Though there are some back in the day. We'll talk about eventually. We'll get to
staple trying to financial fraud their way out of shit. Just canceling movies for tax purposes and whatnot.
Oh, all right. Which are you referring to right now?
Batgirl. They can Batgirl just to save money on some taxes.
Oh, really? Well, famously, this I should note difference though. This is a Paramount
That's true,
distribution.
You're right. So in the broader sense of film studios doing shady stuff. Of course.
I'm like, and let's just, as a broad whole company, corporations doing shady stuff that happens. So Red Granite was relatively unknown before it gave $100 million to help director Scorsese for The Wolf of Wall Street. And actually, like, even despite its shady dealings, because Red Granite was like more of an independent outlet, and they didn't have like studio production behind it. Obviously, studio distribution got behind it, but there was less studio interference. And this really helped
the movie.
Yeah, honestly, it really does. So like it helps with the authenticity. Despite Red Granite also doing some shady stuff where they gave Leo as a lavish birthday gift the Oscar given to Marlon Brando for Best Actor for On the Waterfront, which was valued at around $600,000. However, DiCaprio was kind of forced to give it back with the investigation into the 1MDB. But yeah, that's a pretty cool gift. I mean, I don't know. I would love a statue for a birthday gift. Yeah. So my wife, if you're listening to this, yes, statue for a birthday gift, please. That's coming up next month anyway. But anyways, yeah, really, like I'd mentioned before, like Red Granite being involved in the production of this just led to the authenticity and the excess. It gave them no limits. Not that there was like a blank check written for the movie, but there's just less studio interference to, be a little bit more conservative, and allowed them to show the excess of this guy's lifestyles. So in preparation for his role, for Leo's role to play a stockbroker, criminal, drug addict, Leo was glued to Jordan in real life. Jordan even took him through like the stages of the Quaaludes, which obviously becomes a part of the film. And at one point, Jordan was like rolling around on the floor, kind of reenacting what it was like at a certain stage. And Leo was filming him doing this, obviously. So, I could just imagine being in that room and seeing that happen.
Let's be honest, though. Leo didn't need to go through the stages of Quaaludes. He probably has dabbled a little bit at this point, but for showman's purposes, I get it, Leo.
Listen. We can't say that for sure.
Allegedly,
yeah. But no, I mean, it's interesting, obviously, when you get into like the method acting and stuff like that. But who knows? Maybe he went all Tropic Thunder on the method acting and really did start taking the drugs. But yeah, they actually had real stockbrokers in some of the scenes, even real people that did. I found this out a little bit later, but even real people that had worked at Stratton Oakmont. They were encouraged to contribute lines, dialogue, input on wardrobe, eating habits, drinking habits, the events after hours too. So yeah, like Scorsese encouraged a lot of like authenticity and improvisation in this set and just in the film overall, which actually leads me to something when we're talking about improvisation. Margot Robbie obviously got her big break. And Matt, can you just tell me this right now? Is it Robbie or Robbie? Am I getting it wrong? Because you said Robbie.
Both.
Okay.
No, that's a good question. I've heard it say both. I don't actually know.
All right. Well, I go through this. You can find out and let me know. But basically this was her big break as far as the film goes. She was starting to rise up, but really, not that known. So she gets the audition to play Belfort's wife, Naomi. During the audition with Leo, and this is in front of Scorsese, obviously, for a big role like that, like Martin Scorsese is going to be involved in this.
It is.
Her and Leo are doing a scene where they're fighting and the two are getting into an argument. And She does a little bit of an improv and she slaps Leo in the face, like hauls off on him. It's completely improvised and says "fuck you" to him. So not part of the script or anything like that. At a point, she thought she might have cost herself the role, but she was wrong. Scorsese credits like that improvised slap to her landing the role.
I mean, Leo probably was like really into it too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, who wouldn't be? Especially if you're a masochist and like you got Margot Robbie slapping you in the face. But
Robbie.
anyways,
yes, I did look it up. It is Margot Robbie.
Okay, it's Robbie. All right. Made me think I was saying it wrong for years too. But anyways, yeah, just it really showed like her commitment, her understanding to the character though. She really just like had a great understanding for what the character would really do in that moment. And honestly, like now that I'm looking at like the finished product, yeah, her character would absolutely slap him in the face.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, without a doubt. And she just, again, that just shows the brilliance of how she understands she's just smart, man. Like she's just smart. Some people in this world just get it. And she absolutely just freaking gets it. Like for example, when Martin Scorsese pretty much wanted to dilute any of the nude scenes that she was in. And she was like, no, that's not the case at all. That's just how her character would actually be. So, for example, she told the Telegraph that her body is the only form of currency in this world. So when Marty was trying to help me out and said in the scene where she seduces Jordan, perhaps I could have a robe on, I said she wouldn't. She has to be naked. So she credits maybe a couple shots of tequila to calm her nerves for that scene. However, yeah, I mean, that's just one of the testament to her, like, she's willing to do what it takes if it makes sense for the film, and there's nothing that like is out of pocket. They just don't throw these scenes in to pretty much just fan service. It's no, Margot just again gets the character and gets what's going on in the film.
Honestly, and like something like that too, where it's easy, where it's like you're nervous about it, and you could tone it down a little bit. Like I completely understand, especially like you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position on set. It's it takes a lot of guts to do something like that, but also have the understanding that it's less about maybe the TNA marketing of the film and more about like, no, this is actually would be in line for the character. And I think that's important, when you're an actor, is to recognize something like that. Speaking of actors, or actually, little bit of a side note, some of the name changes that we do have between like the real life people and the characters. Name in real life is actually Nadine. She was from Bay Ridge, though, and did do a modeling campaign for Miller Lite. So that part is true. But we're going to move on to the casting of Donnie, who was actually named Danny in real life. And this was played by Jonah Hill, who's absolutely fantastic in this movie. And Jonah Hill famously said he would have sold his house to actually work with Scorsese.
Again, this is a testament to Scorsese himself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, let's be real. Who wouldn't? Actually, I have a side story I'll tell you in a second. But Jonah ended up like landing the role, and they offered him the SAG minimum, which was $60,000.
Still pretty good.
Yeah, for us that's pretty good. I don't know how long they were filming for, but yeah, for us that's pretty decent. But for Jonah Hill, just like keep in mind too, Jonah Hill's coming off like an Oscar movie and Moneyball pretty recently. I was gonna say
this is kind of the height of Jonah Hill at this point. I mean, between Superbad in 2008, Moneyball, a lot of just things he was doing. I mean, he was in a lot of just
21 and comedies. 22 Jump Street. Yeah.
Yep. And so he's at the height where he could have demanded more.
Yeah, he actually could have. He could have definitely negotiated for more. I mean, it's a negotiation. They're gonna lowball you. Any company's gonna lowball you, and you got to ask for more. But he just wanted to do it so bad because he wanted the chance to work with Martin Scorsese, and was like, "I'm signing the papers before they change their mind." So, Jonah Hill did it for $60,000 and absolutely knocks it out of the park in this role.
Yeah, he does.
Let's go on to some of the fun facts about the movie, though. You ready to have some fun? That's what fun facts do.
Let's have some fun.
Yeah, let's have some fun. It's 5 or it's 6:30 in the morning here in LA, so let's have some fun.
Let's have some fun, such as what's more fun than crushing too many vitamin B pills that actually ends up giving you bronchitis by inhaling them, which Jonah Hill actually did. Apparently, he was getting real life bronchitis because there was just too many crushed up vitamin B pills that they were inhaling during the filming of this movie. And what's more fun than that? Crazy that's how it goes, because obviously the drugs aren't real drugs, so that's what they were doing. Steven Spielberg actually helped direct the Steve Madden IPO speech. He assisted with camera angles and he gave the actors advice.
Yeah, I heard that, and obviously like part of that is Scorsese and like Spielberg, they're part of like this era of Hollywood that came up together and actually good friends, which is like, dude, I would just love to be a part of that friendship, so if you guys are listening, could you please like come talk to me? I'd love to just talk about movies anyways. So that's pretty cool. It's like, imagine just one day like you're filming one of that, and then like obviously Spielberg comes on set and is there and like giving you a speech along with Martin Scorsese. It's like, but going back to the vitamin B pills too. Jesus Christ. Can I just say that bronchitis doesn't sound that fun? I thought these were fun facts. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, nothing fun about being sick, especially because I've had bronchitis and it just sits in your lungs and you can't breathe. Yeah, doesn't sound very fun to me.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, this is ridiculous. Also, and this is a little bit more fun. Actually, correction. This is a lot of it more fun. Fuck is said 569 times across the span of this 3-hour movie.
Just insane.
A lot. It's actually top 3. But this record actually belongs to a Canadian film called Swearnet the Movie. Fucking Canada, man.
They just potty mouths over there.
Yeah, that's what they're all about. But DiCaprio. All right, so off to some of the other fun facts. DiCaprio observed McConaughey's famous chest beating chant off screen. This was something that McConaughey did to sort of calm himself down and get himself in the role. He might do a different chant to it depending on it, but they observed him. And so actually I found the story where McConaughey is kind of telling like how this came about. And Leo kind of alerted Scorsese to do something like that, but essentially like they had filmed that lunch scene and we're getting ready to break, and Leo decides to be like, hey, like talk to him, be like, what were you doing? Like maybe we could put this in the scene where it's like you're doing this at the beginning. And then obviously like as collaborative obviously you have like these great actors collaborating on set, McConaughey does it, and like they start to go through like that scene again, and then they do a take of that, him doing it at the beginning and then at the end, and it really bookends that scene perfectly.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So that was how he ended up doing that. Then the last fun fact, and this is another Jonah Hill one. Jonah Hill did really put that goldfish in his mouth. However, obviously, production like this, usually you have like the Humane Society or on set, and you've got your animal handlers. So
no goldfish were harmed in the making of this film.
Exactly. So he had it in his mouth, but you can only have his mouth for 3 seconds. Like they had animal handlers observing him and everything like that. This isn't Cannibal Holocaust.
Too long.
Yeah, this isn't Cannibal Holocaust where we're killing animals on film. Matt, ready to play a game?
Let's play a game. Let's go.
Real or fake? That's one movie I haven't watched this Halloween season, this spooky season.
I haven't either.
But anyways, let's get to it. Real or fake? Did Mark Hanna tell Belfort that the key to success in Wall Street was masturbation, cocaine, and hookers?
You know what? I feel like that really is the keys to success. So yes, I'm saying real.
Yeah, I mean, why live in that to Wall Street? Like, can we just say that that's like the success? I feel like
that's just the normal key to success in life, period.
Yeah, I mean, we honestly, we haven't talked about this in our business plan yet, but I probably should have put something in it like, we have masturbation, cocaine, and hookers in there as well, too.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
But yeah, this is actually true.
Nice.
In my research, this is something that the real life Mark Hanna actually told to Belfort.
I love that so much.
I know, right? So while the chest beating scene unfortunately isn't real, Matt, as we just learned, the key to success
at least we're getting something
is,
real out of this.
Yeah. Actually, you'd be surprised. A lot of this is more real than you think. Did Jordan meet Donnie in the diner?
I'm gonna say fake on this one.
Matt, you are correct. Yeah, he did not actually.
Two.
Yeah, 2 for 2. They actually met each other through each other's wives.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how. Now, going on to the wife, was Donnie, or Danny, the real life counterpart, married to his first cousin?
Man, I want to say this one's true. I'm going to say not true, just because I feel like this might be something they hammed up a little bit in the movie, as bad as I want it to be true.
It is true.
Dang it, I knew I should have went with my gut. I knew it.
Yeah. Almost like the more ridiculous it is, like the more true it is. Yeah, it is true. That whole scene though, like when they're first talking about it and then they get into just Jonah Hill's performance in that scene is unbelievable. Like when he's first talking about it, he's like, my cousin, she grew up hot, and my friends are like gonna try and fuck my cousin. He's like, no, I'm gonna fuck my cousin, out of respect. It's just his delivery on it's perfect. And then the whole thing afterwards, because then obviously Belford's character is like,
right.
Well, what about if you guys have kids? Like they could,
come out a certain way.
Yeah, they could come out a certain way. And, what the character says, obviously. And, it's like, what would you do? And he's Jonah Hill's just like, or his character's just like, yeah, he's like, we would just drive it out to the countryside and just, be free now. You go free. And that might have been the funniest part in the movie up until it still might be the funniest part in the movie.
Yeah. It's up there for sure.
Yeah. That's like one of the more quotable lines of the whole movie. Anyways, that's a solid game of real or fake. 116 million at the domestic box office. It's actually Scorsese's highest grossing film here.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Shocking enough, even though he's made amazing hits, this is his highest grossing. For Oscars and awards, Leo and Jonah Hill up for Best Actor and Supporting Actor, respectively.
But this doesn't get Leo his coveted Oscar, though.
No, it's his best performance. But he ends up losing.
Gave it to him for that Revenant movie. They did, because he should have got it for this movie, but they gave it to McConaughey instead for Dallas Buyers Club. And I think that's why I think when he got his one, like he really won it for this, but they gave it for the Revenant.
Yeah, I mean, well, it was also like, there was a campaign for the Revenant. The Revenant was like had also a legendarily brutal shoot as well in production. Yeah. So that was part of it. But this is 2013, 2014. We are in the middle of the reconnaissance. So
we really were at this point. Yeah.
Without a doubt. Matthew McConaughey like dominated that year.
Well, he True Detective, and then just saying, like, yes, as you put in the notes as well, like I agree that he should have won the Emmy for Best Actor over Bryan Cranston. However, this was also the height of like Breaking Bad, Bryan Cranston's reign as well. So it's just powerhouses going against each other, really.
Yeah, it was kind of like, so it was a little ridiculous. I'm actually going to go back to 2014, and I'm going to go through how stacked this year was for lead actor in a drama series for an Emmy. Because I went back and looked at this, because obviously I was like, I do remember it being the same year, and I was right. And I mean, like, can you really fault them for going with Bryan Cranston and Breaking Bad? I mean, absolutely no, not.
You can't. Again, it's like 1A, 1B type thing.
Yeah, and I just thought McConaughey was a little bit better, and if he got in the clean sweep, it would have been absolutely fucking legendary. But let's go through the nominees just for this category this year. You had Bryan Cranston, obviously, in Breaking Bad, Matthew McConaughey in True Detective, Woody Harrelson also in True Detective, he's amazing, and Spacey in House of Cards, John Hamm in Mad Men. That is a fucking stacked
I mean, it really
class.
is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, could you be surprised with any of them going through that?
No, I mean, it's hard. How do you choose? Because again, it's like, well, we can just drop Kevin Spacey off just because Kevin Spacey, we all know how tapped he is. But however, John Hamm, Matthew McConaughey, Bryan Cranston, it's just like, dude, just it's a shitty year for the person who loses. But at the same time, like fans, it was a great year because of just how much greatness was gracing our televisions.
Yeah, it was. And I actually forgot to mention one last person in there, Jeff Daniels in the newsroom, who actually won the year before that. And it was absolutely fantastic. I love seeing those clips when they come up of him because it really was a great show. But anyways, move back on to it. That was my sort of sidebar because I just remember this happening. Jonah Hill loses to Jared Leto as well for Dallas Buyers Club fame. And then Terrence Winter is nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, loses to John Riley for 12 Years a Slave. Scorsese, nominated for Best Directing, loses to Alfonso Cuarón for Gravity. Again, like
Gravity
this
wasn't even a good movie, man. I'm sorry. Gravity
Oh,
sucked.
you're not a fan? You're not a fan?
That movie sucked.
Man, I actually really liked it. Maybe it's just based on the experience that I had, but I really liked it. I can't disagree because like the directing in that is amazing. Now, don't get me wrong, obviously, like directing this is fucking phenomenal. I would say this movie has more staying power than some of the other movies from that year. That's no fault of their own. Like, obviously, let's be real, 12 Years a Slave is a hard watch. So anyways, it's I don't fault it for that one. Maybe the biggest crime though, Margot Robbie not nominated at all.
I don't know how she didn't get nominated whatsoever, but maybe it's because she was so new. Who knows?
And then the film was nominated for Best Picture. It lost to 12 Years a Slave. There are 2 Oscar winners from this year in this movie, though. But obviously, they didn't win for their performances in the film. Obviously, you want to take a guess on who it is, Matt? Well, we just mentioned one of them,
Matt McConaughey.
Yeah, so then, he won. The other one's a little.
John Bernthal for some reason, or maybe like an Emmy because that was Walking Dead time. No, okay.
No. 2 Oscars. I'm sorry if I didn't say that.
Oh no, you did. I just
okay.
I don't know who the other one would be.
So a little bit of a random one, but obviously first scene when Jordan goes to the Investor Center, that's Spike Jonze. Spike Jonze actually did win that year as well for Best Original Screenplay for Her.
Okay. So, that was I liked Her. That was a good
one. Yeah. It was a pretty stacked year. So, it's funny you get that. Like Spike Jonze has just that random occurrence, and he's really funny in that. He plays a great character in that. But let's go into some of our thoughts on the movie because I've got some, and I can kick this off if you want. But did you have any specific thoughts on this, Blake?
No. Let's go into some questions such as
what I was going to say, let me get into this, the thoughts part.
I scrolled down too far.
I've hit on it before, but this film and Goodfellas like really are just cousins. And when we get into like our double feature recommendations, obviously I'm going to talk about Goodfellas and why, but it's less about it is about like when you go about like some of the superficial things like plot, very similar. I've got these guys who are just coming from modest means to make it in life and have a life of excess, and they do it through illegal means. The structures of the film are very similar, and like we sort of start off at like the downfall or the declining action, in Goodfellas and Wolf of Wall Street here. They're both really character explorations. We get the narration, the voiceover narration, which, I don't know. Are you, we'll hit on this a little bit more maybe, but how big a fan are you of voiceover narration in film?
If it fits, it depends, man. There's a time and place for everything, right? I think for certain stories it fits, but like, Goodfellas, I think it fits for sure. And I don't have anything against it as long as it makes sense for the tone and what the movie and what the story is that you're telling.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, I think, if anybody does it like and does it well, it's Scorsese when he uses it in his films. So yeah, another film where it's like we got a lot of voiceover narration. I want to boil it down to 2 specific shots. in the film, and really compare them to. And one shot being from The Wolf of Wall Street, and the other one being from Goodfellas. In Goodfellas, this scene actually comes more towards the beginning. So, if you don't remember, we go to young Henry Hill when he's sort of like, coming up, and we see him peeking through the blinds, and he's looking at, he's looking out the window, but there's a specific shot in there where you just sort of like zoom in, and it's kind of a close up on his eye, looking at it. And it's an obvious, Scorsese being a cinephile, it's an obvious homage to Psycho, and that's where that shot's coming from. And obviously in Psycho, the point of that shot in that film is he's being voyeuristic, looking in on, I think it's Marion Crane's the character name, getting undressed. And so the idea is like you are put in his perspective, and you're seeing something maybe that you shouldn't be seeing, or you're having like this voyeuristic moment yourself as the audience. I think what that shot establishes in that film is that we are kind of doing something similar in Goodfellas, where we're having maybe this voyeuristic moment of watching, the excess or the interior of this life, which, we really aren't supposed to see because it's about the mob. But we have this voyeuristic thing. And obviously most cinema is voyeurism to its, very level. You're looking in at the lives of other people. We have this other shot in Goodfellas, in The Wolf of Wall Street. And this one comes near the end of it. And this is when, Jordan Belfort's character is doing the sell me this pen routine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so at the end, like he's going from person to person doing the sell me this pen thing. Shot kind of pans up, and we get away from the action of what's going on of Leo talking to people, and we take a look at the audience, and it's essentially Scorsese holding a mirror up to the audience to be like, you just watch this, and our society is like, he's really, it's a reflection of society. Obviously, that's the whole point of it. And he's trying to say like, listen, we have this voyeuristic tendency to maybe look in on something like this and see this excess and sort of live with it. And I don't know if it's meant to be judgmental, but I think it's interesting when you look at those two things next to each other, like of what those films are saying and how similar they are. Right.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah. So that's one thing I've been marinating on that thought for a long time. And, it's just one of those things where it's like, anytime I watch it, I can't help but think about it. So that's where my head was going. And my thoughts on the movie is like, when we're looking at like maybe a scene or a specific moment, like I can't help but think of that. And it really does, like, it makes these movies like perfect companions, I think.
Yep. Without a doubt. No, you said it perfectly.
Going into some of the questions I have about this movie. What do you think about the fake commercial in the beginning?
Dude, I love it. Obviously, like, I am a sucker for fake commercials, like Tropic Thunder's fake trailers at the beginning of their movies. I love. And so like this one, I love it because it really sets the tone for the movie. Again, this is something that's going to be super unserious. It's going to be a ride. It's going to be a trip. And so this sets the tone for the entire film that we're getting right here. And I loved it.
Yeah, it's because you have that scene, and then it goes right into the tossing of the little people, yes. which I meant to actually put in Real or Fake, but basically it's fake. But they really did have real people in the little people in the office for entertainment. They just weren't throwing. Anyways, yeah. So this, I just love how those scenes, those two like flow into each other and are right next to each other, because it's just, it's good to have them sort of like, I don't know, they play off each other very well, because
it's just the flow is there.
Yeah, you've got this scene where it's like an advertisement for Stratton Oakmont, and it's promoting like stability. But then we look into like what the real life of these guys is like, and they're just a fucking mess, to say the least. So yeah, I thought it was interesting, and I kind of liked it. And you know what the funny thing is though, like that Stratton Oakmont thing always kind of juked me out because I thought it was like another production company at first, and then they go into the commercial. It made me think of like, you ever seen that scene in Family Guy where it's like he's watching a movie and they just keep doing like the production things? Yeah. It made me think of that immediately, and I wonder if like he got that idea just from this film specifically because it's such a good fake out.
Agreed.
This film, this idea came to me when I was watching it, but you know, there's a specific scene in the film where Jordan's first wife, played by Kristen Milioti, is asking him about why do you want to rip off these poor people, like, they or poor middle class people, by selling them penny stocks? Wouldn't you feel better about it by ripping off rich people? And his like thing was like, rich people don't buy penny stocks. So that kind of inspires him to obviously create Stratton Oakmont in the film. But it made me just think overall, do you think Jordan would have been investigated more if he continued to rip off like the poor and middle class?
No, nobody cares, because once you start messing with rich people's money, that's when stuff starts to matter. If it's you and me getting ripped off, nobody gives a shit. But the second you start to mess with like the rich people, of course, they're going to use their resources, and then it's all downhill from there. So no way.
See, I originally thought that, and to a point, I think you're right. But I also think that when you get to a certain point, like his excess and greed would have taken over, that he would have ripped off too many.
That's fair.
To maybe keep it up. Yeah.
That's fair.
Like I think that's how I'm sort of approaching it. Yeah, that's my thought. But I couldn't help but think that, like, on my first initial viewings, is like, would this guy have just gotten away with it? Like, because who gives a shit about the poor and middle class? And maybe that's something like they were kind of trying to say.
Good question to ask, because it does bring up a really good point.
Well, and it flows in with the movie too. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You go to the end of it, and Leo's, Jordan's talking about how petrified he is about going to prison. And, he says, like, for a second there, I forgot, I was rich and I live in a country where everything is for sale. And wouldn't you want to know how to sell it, So yeah, like that whole thing, it kind of goes back into maybe like the message that Scorsese's talking about. And obviously the differences in class here too. Other questions. How many lemons did Donnie and Jordan take?
Oh, they had
in the famous lemon scene.
10 apiece. Jesus.
Do you think it was 10? I don't know.
I feel like if there was actually 10, you'd be dead. But
I think I know that Donnie took more, which is funny because I thought like Leo was more, or Jordan was more fucked up in the scene, or at least Leo plays like he's more fucked up. But they both were. I at least saw like minimum of 3, because you got the one they originally take, second one, and then they're working out and they take another one. But then also Jordan leaves to go do that phone call at the country club, and then Donnie takes another one like right as he's leaving. So that's what I was thinking. It was like, all right, there's a few of them in there, but I think it was at least like 3 or 4. So on here, let's get into our awards section. Best scene.
Oh, without a doubt, the Quaalude scene where they get, basically give themselves cerebral palsy, and he's driving his Lamborghini home and he's smashing it all over the place, and he's crawling inside the house and he's trying to talk on the phone. And that entire sequence is the most ridiculous. It without a doubt makes me laugh. And I always quote and mess around with that scene 10 years on now. It's just unhinged. It's absolutely unhinged. He thinks he's driving his Lambo perfectly. He's really driving it, smashing it and everything by the time he gets home. And then he can't walk, so he's crawling himself in. It's just so fucked up. Yeah, it's so good. There's a few others, though, I think are worth mentioning, because like in this scene, this movie just flows so perfectly. Like you almost have like scenes kind of flowing into each other. So I kind of condensed them
Honestly, we'll start off in chronological order here. The fake commercial into throwing the little people into Jordan's like narration and monologue, I think is fucking fantastic way to start the movie. You get like the fake out with the red Lamborghini or the red Ferrari turning white, which is great. You get the list of drugs that he takes, into sort of the money thing. I do love it. Also the fake out too with, I'm Jordan Belfort, not me, yes. Not him, me. That's always just a funny moment. I like that. I do enjoy the lunch scene with Mark Hanna and Matthew McConaughey as Mark Hanna, into Black Monday. Carries pretty well. Just because that lunch scene is epic, but Investa Center, into meeting Donnie, into smoking
that is
crack.
A good one. Yeah.
It's great because like you get that moment where he's on the phone selling it in the Investa Center and just like everybody's reaction to him, and you can just tell like this guy is a fucking beast on the phones. And then the pool party is fucking amazing. That's where we're introduced to Margot Robbie in the film. I mean, even though we get a shot of her at the beginning, it's really, this is where her character starts to come into play more. And not to mention you've got like the Steve Madden, where Donnie is just tripping balls on Quaaludes, which is hilarious. I like the fight after the wedding into the fishbowl and the IPO. Like I
forgot about that scene. Yeah, that's a good one.
Like the IPO speech is fucking legendary. Like we can't just dismiss like that going into it. But starting off with the fight between Jordan and Naomi, and that is unreal. Like the just 18 months later clip, and then boom, throwing cold water on him. And it's almost like, it's throwing cold water on us, the audience too, because I could feel it in that moment. So that one's up there. The last one, or the last couple here, the boat meeting, which is like when he meets the FBI, obviously.
Oh, that was good. He's just like tossing the money as well. Like, that's really good.
It's a great scene. Kyle Chandler's knocking it out of the park in that scene, holding his own with Leo. Sort of that, battle of wits right there that they have. It goes into the Swiss flight, the flight to Switzerland, which is just its own level of debauchery.
Yeah, and then they get to the actual the offshore bank too, which is also really well done to how they're trying to play their money and defraud the government and things like that.
Yeah, they're using rat holes.
Just kind of do like melt into each other in a way, so it's really. Because when you start to think of one scene, then it goes right into the next scene, and that's just a testament to how well done this movie is.
Yeah, and that's Scorsese and like his editor Thelma Schoonmaker, who they've worked on like every project together. She's a fucking genius in her own right. Last couple here, Brad and Donnie meet up where Brad gets arrested into the lemons. Like, that's probably the best scene. When we just go into it, because like you forget that the Brad and Donnie meetups leads right into that too, and that scene alone is fucking hilarious. You've got like Jonah Hill's character Donnie just giving him shit the whole time. You're like, dude, what the fuck are you doing right now? This guy's like gonna kick the shit out of you. Yeah. And for the last like great scene, the breakup into the car crash, where Naomi and Jordan are essentially breaking up, and into that car crash where Jordan takes his daughter, was it Skylar? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And he ends up crashing the car, just because it's a powerhouse acting between.
It's dramatic. It's heavy as frick too. Like the whole movie's kind of just like jokey, and then you get to that scene, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah, and that's one of those scenes too where the absence of music is really there and lets you sit with it, and it lets the scene affect you a little bit more, lets the actors affect you. So that's where like, I was watching the movie last night, this is where like I kind of got that idea about, okay, like later in the film, like way less music in that.
Yeah.
So, what aged the best? One thing I've got for what aged the best is definitely the music.
Yeah, the music to me, it's one of those timeless pieces that the soundtrack to this day just, it's one of those I want on vinyl almost, just because I like to collect music soundtracks and we have a record player. So it's one of those you throw into the background and you just find yourself bumping to when you're cleaning the house or you're reading or whatever it may be. It's a timeless, I mean, Scorsese, again, he slaps when it comes to getting his soundtrack just perfect.
Yeah, we had discussed this at the top. Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino, and I think you had mentioned before, who was it for Guardians of the Galaxy?
James Gunn, yeah.
James Gunn, yeah. Great, another great director who just knows how to score a movie. Another one that I like to throw out there too is Richard Linklater's kind of underrated. I mean, obviously, just go to Dazed and Confused or School of Rock or any of his films, and you'll find some good stuff. But yeah, Scorsese's really the master at it. And we're going to dive into it even deeper when we get into best music moment. But I mean, this is definitely one of those that aged the best for this movie. Leo's performance on the Lemons, amazing. Can't say enough about it because I was just so convinced that he was actually on those drugs. He actually did work with the real Jordan Belfort to study this. We talked about it earlier about him actually filming the actual Jordan Belfort. This is Leo filming the actual Jordan Belfort, like going through the different stages of what it's like to be on Quaaludes and the different stages of, I mean, his performance on the Lemons just kind of speaks for itself.
Without a doubt.
Popeyes. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, yeah, it really does. It's the one thing about Leo that you cannot knock him for is the fact that he's really willing to like go in depth for a character and really get it right. And when he does, he really does, just as like this whole Lemons sequence. And really, he got a lot of the mannerisms down to a T.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like this is probably his, I agree, I would say his best performance, but I digress. The other thing we got is Popeye spinach as a comparison for cocaine. That's definitely one of those that aged the best for me. The music just lining up perfectly with Leo getting the energy to actually, or Jordan getting the energy to save Donnie while he's choking on the piece of ham or whatever it was like, from the charcuterie.
He even like makes that scream. He's like, it's dude, the whole scene again is probably one of my favorite scenes in movies.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. I just think like using Popeye in general, or like Popeye spinach in general as like a superhero thing, it just always ages well in movies. Like it seems to always work, but the way they did it in this one's absolutely perfect.
Without a doubt, 100%. I agree there. You also had, I know, coming up on light sentence for financial crimes. Man, if there's one thing that aged the best in a movie, or real life, it's the fact that all these financial Ponzi schemes, pyramid schemes, stockbroker type crimes, they get off so easy, dude. So easy.
Yeah, for the most part they do. Like
I'm even surprised if he if he didn't get busted, I almost would have been like he would have been fit for Congress.
He would have. I mean, they really do though. It's just one of those things that it just speaks to what we value here as a country. But it's obviously like frustrating. It's like, because you think of all the lives that he's ruined, and they kind of hint on the darkness of this world in the movie, but it really does kind of a good job of allowing you to stay with the characters, but not draw too much judgment upon them, which is a good thing. It just allows us to kind of enjoy the ride. But I mean, there are those dark moments where it's like, okay, like that guy who they're talking about, he got the blowjob from the girl at when they first opened the office.
Yes. And
later married her. And then they talk about him like killing himself. And you see sort of like the picture of him like slitting his wrist in a bathtub. It's just, it's just extremely dark scene. So it just goes to show you what this type of lifestyle of excess does to people. And not to mention all the people that they've just completely defrauded. I mean, the whole Pink Sheets thing was based off of robbing from poor people who buy penny stocks, which is like the promise of, hey, basically a get rich quick thing where it's like, okay, you give me like a few $1,000s, I might be able to make you $60,000. And, you know, the guy's like, that's my mortgage. So.
Yeah. And it really is. It's a comedy, but there are really real life. This has really happened. They really did go through. They took people's monies, old people, poor people, just really naive people for a time that didn't really understand what was going on. And so there is very much a hint of real shit that goes down. And it's really easy to get kind of spun up in the fact that, yes, this is a hilarious movie. There are some hilarious sequences. And again, the punishment and crime don't always match up. And to this day, it still rings true, which I would almost argue that it almost like the whole comedic aspect almost ages the worst, not in a way that it actually does, but like we hinted to the darkness of it, right? It's real lives we're laughing at essentially, which kind of ages bad, but at the same time, man.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, it's art and Scorsese in general. I mean, like a lot of his films, let's just say like he doesn't have you spend time with the best people. He kind of is more interested in those people who are at the very least morally gray, if not just downright fucked up and do some evil shit. But he tries to do it from a place without drawing too much judgment upon them either.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's definitely one of those what's aged the best. Rocky the dog, though, I feel like Rocky the dog in the film just aged like a fine wine. Rocky seemed to be the same age the whole time.
He did. Not once did he ever age, and it still holds up.
Yeah, you're thinking like the daughter's like 5 or 6. Rocky had to have been like at least 2 or 3 years old by the time Jordan meets Naomi. So yeah, I Rocky aged pretty well. I
hope maybe we all age as beautifully and gracefully as our man's Rocky.
Yeah, absolutely. Last thing I got is the ending is aging beautifully.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, the whole show me or sell me this pen bit, but really combined with like the shot of where it's just like pans up a little bit. You see the audience reacting and just invested in hanging on every word that Jordan is saying. And obviously Scorsese is saying something by having that be the last shot. It's really holding a mirror up to the audience. And we as a society would be hanging on to his every word because we all want to get rich quick. So, you know, it's a powerful, subtle moment that I think just ties up the movie perfectly.
Absolutely. I would fully agree with that. It almost brings it to like, it's not a somber ending, but it's also at the same time almost a very like, no, but really kind of ending. You know, when you're joking, everyone's laughing at the end. Like, no, but seriously. And that's kind of like an ending that he gives with this, and it ages beautifully. And again, a testament to who we are as human beings. And Jordan himself, he was right back out there doing what he does best, and that was selling, man.
Yeah. Did we mention too that is the real Jordan Belfort, right before, who introduces Leo's character of Jordan Belfort before?
That's right. Yeah. I totally forgot. I knew he made a cameo, but I had completely forgotten up until that point. He actually also has like a TikTok that he is very active on right now, that he is out there discussing this stuff and discussing I don't know if it's financial stuff, but I have seen him pop up a few times. He has like a TikTok that's very active.
Yeah. Yeah. It actually, you know, it's funny you say that. In one of the scenes, in the boat scene specifically, where Jordan is talking to the FBI agents, I believe he mentions collateralized debt obligations or CDOs. And that was a big thing that actually caused the financial crisis of 2008, were those CDOs. So yeah, there's sort of allusions to that. And I'm just curious. I'm like, oh, maybe the actual Jordan did know about some of this stuff. That scene where he's talking to the FBI agents actually didn't really happen. Like he didn't know the FBI or talked to the agent onto him until he was arrested. So,
right.
But it's interesting to see like, okay, he probably knows a little bit about some of this stuff and some of the shady things that the more prestigious Wall Street firms have done or are doing currently.
Yeah. No, I'm very curious. I would love to just like one-on-one chat with him, be like, what did you see? Like, obviously he was in prison. Like, what did you see? Did you see this really unfolding in real time? Because underneath all the shittiness is there's a real like savant almost into the financial world. So it is always interesting. Like, what did people like him know that the rest of us didn't really realize or know, see coming?
Totally. That actually will lead us into what age the worst, because even though I do like the ability, or actually, I don't know how I feel about casting Jordan Belfort, because let's be real, this is a guy who's problematic to say the least.
Yeah,
he did some really shitty things, like making a movie about him and doing or getting the movie rights and making the movie and all of that, and obviously having to pay him for that. Like that's sort of like a necessary evil. Did you have to cast him too? Maybe not.
Yeah, it's a movie about his life. It's a movie about what he did. But again, we've talked about it at this point just being a dead horse. He really did some shitty things, man. So you didn't really. It's glorifying at that. I feel like making a movie about him is one thing, but then if you put him in the movie, it's almost glorifying and applauding what he did at the same time, almost. Do I still enjoy this movie? Yes, because I am just a garbage human being. But you can also recognize that, yeah, it's just like your favorite athletes. A lot of them aren't really good people, but you still cheer them on Sundays or whatever day.
Oh, what? You mean Kurt Schilling isn't a great person?
Oh boy. Brad Marchand is, at least. Thank God.
Yeah, we won't dive into who hit as far. I mean, Brett Favre, your beloved boy. Packers. Oh, he's a peach.
Just a great guy.
Great guy. Yeah, we won't dive into that. Maybe we'll do a tiers list sometimes of favorite or biggest a-hole athletes there. Yes. But yeah, I would just agree with the fact that you said it's more maybe glorifying by casting him. I wouldn't say it's doing that. I just would say it's in bad taste.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. No, there you go. That's a way better way to put it. You're right.
Going back on things that maybe shouldn't be in the movie, but let's keep in mind that this movie was made and it came out in 2013. It was probably shot in 2012, the majority of it. Yeah. Trump Tower being in the in the movie. Boy. Did that age pretty bad or what?
Perhaps one of the worst things that aged. The only thing that, in my opinion, aged worse than Trump Tower would have been, tossing little people around.
Yeah, pretty bad. At the same time, like even on brand for those characters.
Yeah, it was. I mean, of course, it was on brand for them. That's the only thing. Like now, it's like okay, but Trump Tower, Jesus Christ. Just when you think the saga is getting ready to end, Trump's saga never ends.
I'd totally forgotten about that part, that they were actually filmed it there, and then like they they cut to the shot of like it's like a wide shot of the limo going away, and it's after Jordan's wife confronts him about the cheating with Naomi, and they're in the limo and all that. So it's right outside of Trump Tower in that scene. And yeah, you see it and then it's like clearly right there. And I'm like, oh shit, I totally forgot about this. Yeah, definitely something that might not have aged the worst. But I mean, let's be real. If we're going to keep out all of the real estate developers who have done shitty things, then I mean, where are we really going to film our movies? Let's be honest here.
To be honest, just America itself was built on some pretty questionable stuff. So really, yeah,
it's a slippery slope there, Matt.
It is.
But at the same time, one of those that we're like, okay, like that was there. I totally forgot about that. The lemons, did they age pretty badly because of the delayed fuse or what?
They had to have. I mean, it turns out that they don't actually age very well if you leave them aged and sitting around for X amount of time.
Yeah, they expired in like the early 80s. So I guess they had they did age pretty badly because they were so delayed on the fuse.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were still effective. So I don't know.
They worked. I think they aged beautifully. I'd almost
Yeah, I mean,
delayed fuse is perfect if that's what you're looking to get into.
I would have just, granted, like I would not change anything. I would just like to know what the experience would have been without like taking 3 to 4 of them, and maybe, not eating that whole day and having an enema, like all of that stuff, like just to see what it was like, and maybe have us in that experience.
Yes.
So, maybe a short film about that would do fine. Scorsese, whenever you get the time.
Just anytime, whenever you're not busy bashing Marvel movies right now, go ahead, please.
Benihana, did that age pretty badly or what?
Yeah, it's up there on the list. Yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love me some hibachi, but yeah, the whole Benihana thing definitely aged pretty poorly in that.
yes. That's all I have as far as that. You want to go into some standout performances? What do you got?
Standout performances. I mean, really, there's 3 of them, and
themselves.
Yeah, all of them speak for themselves. And we've talked the whole podcast about Leo's performance here, and it's just a powerhouse. Obviously, argued that he could have won the Oscar for it this year, but certainly some stiff competition.
Yeah.
But I still think that he would have been a great choice for that as well. But I mean, Margot Robbie and her like burst onto the scene. Yeah, her breakout burst onto the scene. Here I am performance fucking crushes it.
Yeah.
I love her. I mean, yeah, she's a national treasure, even though she's Australian.
That's even better.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
If you ever find yourself getting divorced, Margot, you give me a call.
Yeah, I mean, her and Steve Irwin, they're the Aussie national treasures right there. There's some more, but I mean,
on their money already. Come on,
they're up there. And then obviously Jonah Hill, who famously took the minimum for that $60K, that SAG minimum, took that and just absolutely knocked it out of the park as Donnie. So he was fantastic, and probably, it's hard to say like if he or Leo was the funniest in this movie. Like there's so many. Each actor is funny in their own right. He probably has the most memorable scenes because you can just tell it's him naturally doing his riffing, like just kind of going like improv off the cuff sort of lines that he does from different movies. It was perfect. So I do find like maybe his lines that he says in the movie he has the funniest lines in the movie, but
I would say is the funniest. I think they don't work without each other. I think if you put somebody else into that role, it's not, I mean, it might be as funny, but Jonah Hill does something really well. And it's it's not even slapstick. It's very realistic comedy, I guess is the easiest way to put it. He's very real in the way that he just flows naturally in these comedic moments, and him and Leo have some of the best chemistry on screen together. So I don't know that it would have worked comedic wise if you put like, I don't know, anybody else into this role. So yeah, he certainly, Jonah Hill, without him, I don't think it would have been as funny of a movie, and it wouldn't have worked as well.
He's quick-witted and an asshole, and it's like perfectly with that, with Superbad. Like you remember his lines in Superbad are just, he's kind of a dick, but it works perfectly.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah, he's very like off the cuff with his improv, and he just plays like, gives it sort of these asshole-ish remarks perfectly. Yep. And for a character like this, it lines up.
It absolutely does. And there was one person I was going to put in this. However, when we go into our pound for pound, which we're going into right now, Matthew McConaughey does the most with what he knocks it out. He delivers an absolute knockout with like the 5 minutes of actual screen time that he has. Without a doubt, he's my standout pound for pound performer in this film. Yeah,
I mean, like, I can't really argue much with this. I just realized though what we totally forgot to do. So we forgot to give the awards. We listed all of them, but we forgot to give them. So for what age the best, what are you going with? Let's backtrack here.
Yeah, backtracking. So what age the best for me? I'm going to go ahead and say I like the music the best. I'm going to go say actually, no. What age the best? The light sentence for financial crimes. That is my award because it's so true.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I can't disagree with that one. That's good. I'm going to go I'm gonna go with the music that aged the best. It still holds up really well.
It does. It does. Absolutely. All
right.
For what aged the worst?
I've actually got I've got the casting of Real Jordan. I don't think it was necessary. I think you could have, because it was just like a filler announcement part too. Like it's a nice little Easter egg when you think about it. Like, oh, that's the real Jordan Belfort who introduces him. So I don't know if it's meant to like say anything, and if it is, and I'm completely missing it, like please point it out to me. Like I'm always happy to hear that. But I just don't think it was necessary.
Yeah, I would choose that one. However, I'll just go ahead and say, let's just do Trump Tower, because this is a time when we were so innocent. Trump Tower. I'll say that just for the sake of it. Standout performance.
That's totally fair. Yes. Standout performance. Who we got?
For me, man, I'm going to go Margot Robbie. Sorry, I always say it wrong. Margot Robbie. And for that, it's because it's her first real feature film, her first big, it's her breakout. And she's up across from Leo, Jonah Hill, Matthew McConaughey, all these other actors that have kind of cemented themselves. And she was kind of new to the scene. And the way she absolutely delivers, she just understood the film. She understood the assignment. To me, she gets the award for standout performance.
Yeah, she really did understand the character perfectly. So I can't disagree with you on that one at all. She knocks it out of the park and then has gone on to just do so many great things afterwards. But I mean, I got to give it to my man, Leo. This is, probably the actor of our generation. Like Daniel Day-Lewis is a little bit older, so you got him right there. But Leo is really that guy. And this was his performance. Like he was Jordan Belfort. So I got to go with him. But pound for pound, we're already kind of leaning on it. Matthew McConaughey, man. Talk to me more about him.
It's just what he does, and the way he just, as soon as he hits the screen, you're glued to it. You're enthralled. Something big is there, and so he's just really, really, really brings you into this movie. And is only in the movie for 2 to 3 minutes. He's hardly in it at all. And pound for pound, he's knocking it out. He's laying him down and literally beating on his chest and yours. It has you afterwards, just amping yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
That's my
I mean, it's great. That whole shtick, like with him doing the whole chest, beating on his chest thing. It was not planned. It wasn't in the movie. It was actually something that Leo observed him doing and wanted to put it in the movie. And basically, when I was reading about it, is that they had kind of wrapped up that whole scene for the day when they got lunch after Jordan's first day, and Jordan gets lunch with Mark Hanna. So they just wrapped up filming most of that. And then Leo had mentioned something. He's like, "What were you doing with that?" They started talking about it, and he said, showed it to Scorsese, obviously, or I should say, McConaughey showed it to Scorsese and everything, and they talked about maybe putting it in the movie. And essentially, they bookend that screen, or that scene, I should say, with him doing it at the beginning and then doing it at the end, and it's fantastic. It just carries over through into that scene, into the next scene. And I kind of like how they do they do him like doing that chest beating at the end of that scene. It's sort of like that's all you can hear as we go into them going to the strip clubs, basically.
No, sure.
It was great. I can't argue much with McConaughey just because like he was amazing in that. There's a couple more though that I love. Young Kristen Milioti, though, for Jordan's first wife. She was fantastic in the little time that she had. I mean, I was invested in her, and probably the one character that you could maybe like actually like a little bit.
Yeah, like the only redeeming quality. People, yeah.
It almost felt like, and obviously, like I don't think Naomi's a shit person either. I guess like a little bit grayer area-ish. But it seemed like her as a character, like seemed to kind of ground Jordan a little bit more. And just Kristen Milioti's got this thing that she's very, very like when plays a great likable character, and her character's name escapes me. Oh, it's Teresa. So, and she just does a great job of being like such a likable character and just very endearing to the audience, and kind of can be that perspective where it's like you get to see like Jordan's transition,
right,
and how her being taken out from his life kind of like is a loss of something even more. It's almost like a loss of sense of normalcy.
Yeah, he didn't start out as a terrible human being. He just slowly went down that path, and it's easy to get sucked into. I mean, it could happen to any of us. It might have happened to some of us in regards to certain things that we do. So it's with that. I will say very much that I love that connection, because it's not something I really actually pieced together until you started speaking.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you think about it, that her character was there for him when they were poor. So she's sort of a tie back to normalcy, and not something that he just obtained while being rich.
No, absolutely.
Which means, which is like, it almost reinforces the idea that money can get you this much more.
Yep.
And there's not somebody there to kind of keep him in check. So,
actually, one more person. John.
Let's go. Bernthal. Yeah, I was gonna say, what can we ever forget about Bernthal? No, like never. No.
He's the best when it comes to, you need somebody who barely shows up on screen, but you really want people to like fall in love with what you're doing. You see it with The Bear season 1. The Bear in general, actually, he's barely there, but he plays such a massive role. You see it in this movie. And John Bernthal, man, he's one of the best at what he does in that regard.
Oh, I love him. I mean, I don't know about you. I know it's early days with the pod, but I'd be happy to change the name to just the John Bernthal podcast. Like if we could.
John Bernthal experience.
Yeah. The Real Buffs with John Bernthal. No, not that he'd be on it, but like just, to have him be associated with it would be great. Maybe we'll put him on the logo or something. I don't know. Yeah, he's great. I've loved him.
Again, dude, give it like out of 5 Bernthals.
Yeah, out of 5 Bernthals. I mean, I can't disagree with that. I mean, that could be our movie ranking from now on.
It really
just
could.
How many Bernthals. I did love him even from like the first time I saw him, which, funny enough, was on, I want to say it was The Walking Dead. It was probably
my Dead. Yeah.
That might have been my first experience with him or seeing him on screen. But there were some other ones, like obviously you got The Walking Dead. He was on The Pacific, which came out before The Walking Dead, I know. So I always loved him in that. Famously The Bear right now. Yeah. He's amazing in. Yeah, he knocks it out of the park every time. He's got such a presence to him, and just can play the character so perfectly. And so like they command so much, like when he's in the room, like he's good at portraying that powerful character that might be a little unhinged every time. Like every time he's
tone to the unhingedness there.
Yeah. And he's always crushing it. So this one was great. And he's kind of funny too. He's actually hilarious in this movie. Like the whole
100%.
The whole Ma, we having chicken tonight? Ma. Like I could say that every day.
I could. Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the more quotable scenes. So what, we giving it pound for pound? Is it just McConaughey?
Still McConaughey for me, man. Still McConaughey.
Yeah, I'm going with him too. We're on the same page.
Still there. What about the music moment?
Oh man, I will fully admit on this one, I literally couldn't stop writing them down. I'm like, this moment's sick. This moment's sick. It just, again, goes to show you how perfect Scorsese is with creating soundtrack here. Dust My Broom. That's sort of the beginning part. That song that plays at the beginning with the Ferrari. I love that as a music moment. I think that song comes back a couple of times in the film, but it's either that or another one that comes back. But Dust My Broom was a great music moment. Then we got Billy Joel was the next one I had, Moving Out, which is our entrance to or our intro, I should say, to Bernthal.
Yes.
So that was a good one. Anytime Billy Joel's on a music moment, I'm gonna be happy. Smokestack Lightning. So this is the song where they just shave the lady's head. They're kind of going a little crazy in the office there. They've got like the strippers coming in and everything. They do use this one a couple times in the movie. So that was another one. Insane in the Membrane at the beach party.
That was honestly, this for me is my favorite music moment right here, just because I love this song so much and it gets me so hyped up.
Cypress Hill.
Yes. It's something about it just makes me just want to freaking rage, dude. I want to go punch grandmas in the face and some shit.
I love me some Cypress Hill. This was a really good one. Also, low key, kind of love there was this song that was playing, and I found the name of it, and it's called King Arthur Act 3. What power art thou? And this is the scene in the party where Donnie is like is on Ludes and he's having his high moment, and Jordan's like, shh, wait, like Donnie's having a moment right now, and it sort of builds up. It's a perfect song for that moment. And I think low key, kind of just because it's right next to Cypress Hill, is a little less underappreciated. But when you pay attention, like in the moment, it might even be a little bit better for what's on screen and how other ones.
I would agree with that for sure.
Uncontrollable Urge by Devo. You know what this song is right? So this is the song that Rob Dyrdek uses for his entrance music to what's that show on MTV, dude? Ridiculousness. There you go. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. It's
right.
It's a cover of the Devo song, which I always loved. Devo's a great 80s band, and kind of like got like this early punk thing to them.
Yeah.
Especially that song, definitely for sure. Pretty Thing by Bo Diddley. Baby Got Back on there. That's the wedding scene.
Yep.
Anytime you got Sir Mix-a-Lot in there.
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Everlong by the Foo Fighters.
It's hard to beat the freaking Foo Fighters, dude.
Dude, I know. Dave Grohl. And it comes at a perfect moment in the film, because at this moment we're starting to transition to the downfall. We just had the wedding. Jordan just gave Naomi the new yacht as a wedding gift.
Yep.
So right after this song, I think we cut to, it says 18 months, Jordan sleeping in bed. And then we kind of get to the beginning of what the film started, which was, the helicopter ride when he came back home and was all effed up. And basically Naomi throws the water on his face. So it's almost like we've gone back to beginning again, sort of another tie into like how Goodfellas in this movie is connected to and structure wise. So it's like, even just when you pay attention to the lyrics of Foo Fighters, it just matches up a little perfectly for that. So it's like we're coming down from the high at this point. Couple moments here. Hip Hop Array. Again.
Solid choice.
Yeah. Another great one. Last couple is Gloria, which is like an Italian version of it as well. We may be a little bit biased for this song, though, because of what happened to our beloved Boston Bruins in 2019 to the St. Louis Blues. And that was famously
sucks.
You know what? I will always say this. I wish that was our thing. Like, I so wish it, because I actually love that song. I kind of like the shtick that they had to it.
Still,
they made me hate it just because of that. But I actually more blame the Bruins for that than the Blues. So, they could have put that away. They were they were. I thought they were the better team, but I guess we were wrong.
They were. They absolutely were. There's no reason we should have lost that. But I digress.
This couple here. Ca plan pour moi. This is the French song, and they've used this multiple times. They've used this in a ton of different movies. So it's an 80s song. It's very recognizable. I do love this because it's always good in like a montage style when you're doing like quick cuts. And again, Scorsese knows where to use it. It's got a kinetic energy to it. So it's great for those sort of moments. Another moment in movies where I know they play this in this movie. Yeah, definitely on the same level of great films, just like Wolf of Wall Street was National Lampoon's European Vacation is the one that always sticks out to me when they're in the Louvre. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big Vacation fan. Obviously, that's probably like the worst of them, but at the same time,
it definitely is. But
same time, I do like. Yeah, I just enjoy him. It's a guilty pleasure. But anyways, a good music moment for that. And the last one is Mrs. Robinson playing as they're sort of everybody's getting arrested here. This is sort of wrapping up the movie. This is the cover of Mrs. Robinson too. I didn't check who did that. Obviously, you know, the original one by Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah.
Not that one, but this is the cover of it. You know, less of a fan of that version of the song than I would be towards the original, but it was still a good moment. I do like it as sort of a wrap up, like things are slowing down kind of song here.
Yeah, it fits the whole vibe of what's happening, and that's everybody getting taken down.
Totally. So what are we going with? I mean, I just gave you like
mine's Insane in the Membrane still, man. I just love that song. It gets me hyped. It's very hard to choose between that and the Foo Fighters for me because it's the Foo, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll do you one better. I'm going to go with the Foo Fighters. So
there you go.
I just
that.
Yeah, I mean, I do like that moment the best. Obviously, I'm a big Foo Fighters fan, but when I'm giving out this award, it's like, what do I like about this song? What do I like about it in the moment? How does it fit? You know, and it doesn't need to. Sometimes an obscure song works perfectly, but it doesn't always need to be an obscure song. Like
right.
I do like the King Arthur Act 3, What Power Out There. I was honestly thinking about choosing it, but I probably would have sounded like a pretentious douche if I just chose that. So at the same time, I do like it a lot. So
agreed.
Last couple of categories we have here, and we left this one out last week, but this is going to be one going forward. Double feature. What are you double featuring this movie with if you could watch it? And that's given you have 6 hours in your day to watch two movies.
Obviously, if you're going Scorsese films, you can double it up with, you know, one of his other greats. But to me, it's got to be The Big Short because they're both tied financially. And if you want to dive into, you have the stocks and the rise and fall of that based on a true story. And then you go into The Big Short, which is actually the 2008 financial crisis. So to me, that's my double feature. If I was to sit there and watch two movies back to back, and they're very similar vein.
Yeah, it's a good one. I obviously we're thinking out when I was thinking about these and what movies to put down that would be good double features. You got to consider multiple things like what's the subject matter, maybe who the director is. Are we double featuring a different actor? Subject matter, obviously, themes, that sort of thing. So The Big Short is sort of an obvious one because you think about the tie-ins with actually different actors, even Margot Robbie making a short cameo in The Big Short, actually. A great scene that she's in too, and a great usage of Adam McKay uses the way Adam McKay uses her in that film to kind of explain some of like the important like financial terms or, you know, different things that they were doing so that audiences could understand it, but also keep it entertaining, was creative. So yeah, that's a good one because, and then obviously Jordan's character alludes to it when he talks about the CDOs. And that was a big part of the financial collapse in 2008 was the collateralized debt obligations. So yeah, I think that's a good one. Another one that caught that obviously we've talked about multiple times is Goodfellas. And that's sort of like where I think the standard would be because these movies are so well connected and they're like cousins or brothers. You have two morally gray at best characters, if not downright bad characters who go through sort of like these illegal schemes. We start the movie off when they're at like their highest or at their peak. And then we get through that. And then halfway through it, we kind of go through them to the downfall. So structurally it works very well. Some of the themes are there too. We're kind of looking at like what unfettered capitalism looks like in America. And we talk about it from like almost what it looks like from a blue collar perspective and what it looks like from a white collar perspective. So I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Other ones though, that are maybe like a little less, or maybe just obviously they're known movies, but maybe less thought of to pair these with. Have you ever watched Boiler Room, Matt?
I have not.
Okay. So this was early 2000s movie, solid cast, but just to give you like a quick synopsis of this movie, and you tell me if this sounds like it would be a good double feature. A college dropout attempting to live up to his father's high standards gets a job as a broker for a suburban investment firm, which puts him on the fast track to success. But the job might not be as legitimate as it at first appears to be.
As old as time.
Yep. So definitely very similar in the subject matter, but let me give you the list of people in this movie too, because it's a great, like, it's a great 90s film. We've got Giovanni Ribisi, Vin Diesel, Neil Long, Nikki Katt, Scott Kahn, Jamie Kennedy is in the movie. Jeez. Ben Affleck. Yeah. So like a solid cast too. And just maybe a good throwback to that time and looking at a movie like that. I haven't watched this movie in a long time, but I do remember having a good time with it. Like the first time I saw it, which might've been like, 15, 20 years ago. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think that would be a good double feature. And then the other one is more of like cut from the same cloth is Glengarry Glen Ross, and just thinking about the sales tactics and sort of the hype up and all that of being a salesman. And I just think that's another good comp.
For sure. I haven't seen those last two at all, but something to look into, especially if you're trying to do a general feature of how many financial gurus turned pieces of shit we can watch in one day.
I mean, don't threaten me with a good time. That sounds like a great day. It sounds like a great afternoon. It might be what I do this Saturday. Who knows?
There we go.
Yeah. So what you're going with, you're going to go with Big Short.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Christian Bale's also in that one too.
Totally. And even though I just gave you a couple more, I'm going to go with Goodfellas.
Classic.
All right.
Classic. Who wins the day for you? Who is your ultimate champion at the top of this hill?
It's got to be Scorsese. Scorsese always wins the day.
True.
Though I will give another nod to longtime Scorsese collaborator Thelma Schoonmaker, who has been his longtime editor, and she's just a fucking master at the craft. It does just a great job of editing this film too. So, but yeah, it's got to be Marty all day.
I'm gonna go with Margot Robbie, man. She won the day because ultimately, if she doesn't do this movie, who knows? She probably isn't Barbie. She probably isn't directing her own movies. Who knows where her career goes? This movie lifted her into stardom. And so to me, she wins the day because of where she's at currently today in cinema.
The slap heard around the world. That's what got her the part. That's the slap that launched 1,000 Barbies.
Exactly. And now she is the voice of a generation and one of the best actresses working in film today. She easily wins the day. No one even comes close to me.
Yeah. You know what? It's disappointing that Leo doesn't win the day on this one, but honestly, Matt, like, I can't be mad at your choice.
I mean, he had his chance. He does phenomenal, but this movie didn't already tell us what we didn't know about Leo. Whereas,
I mean,
damn.
I could say the same thing with Scorsese. I mean, we already kind of knew.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just a matter of perspective.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that does it for us here. That does it for our second episode of the Real Buffs podcast. Again, if you guys are interested, want to learn more, connect with us on social media. It's going to be at the Real Buffs on Instagram. That's usually where I post most of my stuff. I'm going to start doing TikTok soon enough, though, too. So interact with us on that. I love the old IG. Also, we please like, subscribe, give us a review. It's going to be how we get the channel to grow a little bit more. We're really committed to getting you guys as much content as possible. Give us as much feedback as possible, too. We really want to make sure that we're doing the best job we can for all you guys out there. So make sure you like and subscribe. And we are going to be covering another movie here soon. Matt, I think what we got on the agenda here is the Thanksgiving classic.
Thanksgiving.
We are. Oh man, dude, that's a good one. Let's just add that to the list here. Would love that. But no, we're going back to the 80s, back to a time where there were no iPhones. And
in airplanes.
Yes, exactly. We were smoking in airplanes. Back to where you could probably get through security pretty easily.
There was no.
We are talking. What's that?
There was absolutely no security whatsoever.
Yep. So we are talking about the classic John Hughes film, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. We're doing this film, obviously, because we got Thanksgiving coming up. And to me, this is the ultimate Thanksgiving film. Steve Martin, John Candy. So if you want to take a deep dive with us in the next couple weeks with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, let's go. On behalf of the Real Buffs, I'm Charlie.
I'm Matt.
And we will see you soon.
Peace.